All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Be That Guy podcast. My name is DJ Ligori, and we have a very special episode today. We have officially hit 200 episodes. Woohoo! That's awesome. That's really cool. That is something that I'm very proud of. I started this podcast in August of 2021, and originally it was called the Libraries and Weight Rooms podcast, and I shifted it over to the Be That Guy podcast over the last year. And I just want to say thank you to all of the people who, in the beginning of me making this podcast, they were like, this is awesome. Like, thank you so much for doing this. And I also want to say thank you to the people who said it was super cringy and it was horrible. And they said, why are you making a podcast and putting all of this stuff out into the world? And I just kind of was like, I think it's kind of fun. It's something I want to do, and let's see where it goes. And 200 episodes later, we're still doing it. And hopefully we're making a bigger impact than we did in 2021. So if it's your first time tuning in, I want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to spend with us today. I want to go for maybe about 10 to 15 minutes. I have a really cool thing that I want to talk to you guys about today that I've learned from the guys who have been in our 12-week habit program. And I think this is a metaphor for what is going on right now with young men, because I've seen it live hand with all the guys that we're working with, and I want to share it with you today. And so before I dive into that, I also have something cool that I want to share with you guys. We were named the 9th best podcast, best mental fitness podcast from Million Podcasts out of 100 podcasts that they ranked. And so we ranked number 9, the Be That Guy podcast did. And there were a couple individuals who were, number 1, 2, and 3. Mark Devine was one of the individuals who was on that list. Jim Quick, I think, was another one. And those are guys who I've listened to for years, very specifically Mark Devine. I've listened to a lot of his stuff when I was in my early 20s. He's a ex-Navy SEAL, and I believe he created a program called SEAL Fit. And I really had a lot of I was inspired a lot by Mark Devine, so it's really cool to be mentioned on the same list with him as well. Before I dive into today's topic, if you haven't subscribed to the show yet, I'm going to ask you to please do that right now. I never really ask a lot of the people listening. Maybe I ask like, hey, go try these things. But if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. It's something that I'm trying to be more conscious of, actually asking people like, hey, if you're enjoying what's going on here, hit that subscription button. All right. I'll be super, super grateful for that and very appreciative. So here's the interesting thing that I want to talk about today. Over the last 2 to 3 months, we've been running our flagship 12-week habit program. It's a very simple concept. Basically, what we do is we help guys build 4 specific habits over a 12-week period. 3 of those habits are what I like to call your core habits. And these are habits that help you build a exercise routine, help you build a sleep routine, which means you go to bed at a certain time and wake up at a certain time. Then the last one is you create a reading routine. And so these are your 3 core habits: reading, exercise, and sleep. The 4th habit is what I like to call a growth habit. The growth habit is very unique to where each guy is in their life. For example, if the guy's in college, typically these growth habits are around priority management, understanding where their time goes, how to build a schedule, how to use an agenda. When are your classes? When do you want to work out? When do you want to eat? When do you want to study? I know that when I went into college, this was very overwhelming. It's the first time in your life where you have all this freedom. And a lot of the guys like to use that growth habit to actually understand where their time goes and how to actually manage their days and their weeks. All right. The second type of growth habit that I've seen are guys who have essentially gone through college and don't necessarily have a professional career yet or a path that they're going down. So what we help them do is we help them define, all right, what is the thing that you actually really want to do with your life? Like, what are the things that you're interested in? And then we help them go find jobs in that area. We help them clean up their resume. We help them clean up their LinkedIn. We're even experimenting with different landing pages and different video applications to basically get a job that these young men are really interested in and makes them feel like they have purpose and makes them feel like they have a direction with their life. And so those are kind of the 2 main growth habits that I've seen from the guys that we've worked with. And at the end of each month, we do a reflection. I ask the guys 3 simple questions around what they have experienced over that month. A lot of these questions are around, how has your self-image changed? How has your discipline changed? One of the questions that we ask is the you from week 1. If they were to see the you from week 5 or week 9, what would they be proud of or surprised about? And here's the wild thing that I totally was not expecting, that I think tells such a larger story about what is going on in the world with young men today. You know what their answer was? And when I say their answer, every single guy who we have worked with answered almost the exact same way. Their answer was their ability to finish a book. To start a book on week 1 and finish that book. Typically the guys finish the book around week 7, week 8. So the week 9 reflection, the guys say, I have had the biggest impact so far has been my ability to start and finish a book. And I thought to myself, man, like there's so many other things that we're doing. We're exercising, we're going to bed on time. A lot of these guys are stopping their doom scrolling at night and actually having like a bedtime and actually going to bed. And then they're applying to jobs, they're getting jobs, they're making more money, they're feeling happier, they're feeling more energized. And they say that their biggest impact is their ability to finish a book. And so after each guy kind of like reiterated that point, I would, our meeting would end and I would sit there and I'm like, man, like, what am I learning here with all of these young men who are basically giving me this data about the work that we're doing with them? And our ability to start something and finish something, I think, has such a direct result on what we think about ourselves and the impact that it has on us. And I thought back to like when I was in my earlier 20s and I was kind of struggling with life direction. I was kind of struggling with like, what am I going to do with my life and what am I going to do with my time? And I realized that deep down, I really know the answers to these things. If you want to figure out your life, go do more things. Go apply to more jobs. Go put yourself out there more. Go take some time to actually spend with a friend, with a parent, with a trusted colleague to help you navigate what do you think I might want to do with my life and have these conversations. If you want to be in shape, you know that you have to go to the gym. You know that you have to get adequate sleep, eat a certain way, drink some water each day. And so I think what this showed me was these guys saying, hey, I the biggest impact has been my ability to finish a book. I think what this shows us is that a lot of guys today know what they need to do. They know that they need to stop smoking and stop hanging out with that group of people and stop playing video games. They know that they need to spend more time on their academics and spend more time on job applications and thinking about their future. And I bet you a lot of these guys start these things. They might start a couple of job applications. They might go a couple days without the video games or without the smoking. And they might start to work out a little bit. Yet I don't think a lot of these guys finish it. And that's where I think the judgment then starts to kick in. And I think then we start to create this identity of, oh, I'm somebody who starts something, but I don't necessarily finish it. And that's not that great of a self-perception. And so the great thing about this program that we've built here is that you have to actually finish these things if you want to complete the program. So all of these guys who start with, hey, we literally start with 2 minutes of reading, and then by the week 8, they're doing 15 minutes of reading for 5 days a week. A lot of these guys are saying, I love reading now. I like the fact that, one, I'm not on my phone like the majority of guys. I'm actually intentionally choosing a harder thing to do in reading. And now I actually enjoy the things that I'm reading. What's the next book that I get to read? And I think what this does is this starts to stack up these little wins in their life. And these are hard wins. Like I said, it's much easier to read a book than it is to go on social media. And when you start to stack up these little hard wins, I think that's the evidence that helps you change what you think about yourself. And I think that identity is then going to be reflected in the way that you behave and the vision that you have for your life. And so I wanted to share this with you today because there might be a guy who's listening to this who's like, I know that I got to kind of get my shit together. I know that I do, yet I don't know how. I want to challenge you and actually say, if you did know how, what would you do? What are the things that you would start to really focus on? Would you start to focus on your exercise? Would you start to focus on your school? Would you start to focus on possibly getting a part-time job, limiting the partying, limiting all of the socializing, limiting the video games, and starting to focus more on becoming a better man, a more contributing member to society? And I would challenge you guys to think about, like, what are the things that you would start to do? And then if you were to start those things, what do you need to do to continue to do those things? And that's personally where I think having a group of guys to hold you accountable to that thing on a weekly basis is really, really valuable. Because what I've realized, and I'm a victim of this just as much as you are who's listening to this, is it's really easy to let yourself down. Because nobody's there to say, hey, you let yourself down. Hey, you didn't do the thing that you said you were going to do. But it's really hard to let your teammates down. Because you don't want to be that guy, no pun intended, who's the weak link. Who's the reason that you didn't win the game. Who's the reason that your group didn't get that grade. And so there is huge value in being in a group that is consistently each week holding you accountable to a certain commitment. And that's what we've built with Be That Guy. And so if you are a parent and your son is just going into college, or your son has graduated college and is sitting on the couch, or he's at his apartment and he doesn't really have a direction, like a long career growth type of direction with what he's doing with his life, please reach out to us, because this system is working. And we see these guys changing over these 12 weeks. They're happier. We had one guy say it's the happiest he's ever been in his life. And it's really just about putting the right structure in place and then having the right guys hold you accountable on a weekly basis. All right. So if you're a parent, check out and this is the other thing I actually wanted to mention too. We just released our updated website as well, bethatguyclub.com. So on this website, it explains all of the 12-week program that I just talked about in this episode. We have pages for moms and parents to understand like your pain points and the things that you might want to see with your son and with your life, right? And at the same time, we also have guide pages. So if you're a mom, you can actually send the guy's page to your son so that it's written in his language. He understands it a little bit better, and it's more driven around, hey, here's what he's going to experience, and the parents are, here's what you're going to experience as parents. So bethatguyclub.com. I'll have it in this video and in the show notes as well. Go check it out if you think that this is something that will help your college son, or your son who's just going into college, or it'll help your son who's graduated college in his early 20s and doesn't necessarily know the next steps in his life. Okay. So starting things and ending them have a huge, huge impact on these young men, as I've seen over the last 12 weeks. And if you're a guy, if you're a parent, simple little thing, start a little reading with each other. Maybe, right? Read a book together and finish the book, right? As I've seen, it has an incredible impact on our psyche and what we think about ourselves. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's episode, the 200th episode of the Be That Guy podcast, technically the Be That Guy podcast. I'm very grateful for you. Thank you so much for sticking with me throughout all of the cringy episodes, all the episodes where I had no idea what I was talking about and I just grinded my way through it. But those are the stories that we're going to talk about one day, kind of like today. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, keep being that guy. We'll talk to you soon.